Perfect. Started recording, Hyla.
Rosie, I'm not sure if she's frozen or she's being very still.
Yeah, I think Hyla isn't actually being that still in real life. She has frozen, unfortunately. Oh, she's come back. You're back, Hyla, just in time.
Huge apologies for that. I was just desperately trying to go onto a different device, so hopefully I'll be okay. Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to this conference for employers around supporting people with additional needs in the workplace. It's really fantastic to have you all here. My name, for those of you that don't know, is Hyla Grimwade. I'm the Careers Hub lead across Southend and Thurrock. For those of you that don't know what the Careers Hub is, a brand new project for us down in Southend and Thurrock. Eventually we'll hopefully be going across the whole of Essex as well. And it's really here to supercharge the careers education that is available for young people. So we already have the Enterprise Advisor networks in Southend and Thurrock, and it's to build on that. The idea is that we will act as a central hub for essentially all things careers when it comes to young people, and that includes for employers as well. And this is the first event for us as a hub, so we're really excited about it. And a big thank you to Rosie Powley, who's the Enterprise Coordinator for Southend, for organising this event for us. A little bit of housekeeping. The event's due to finish at 11 o'clock today. As Rosie mentioned, we are recording the event and it will be available for you after the meeting. If I could ask that you all keep your microphones on mute, please, so that we don't have any background noise, so that the speakers are able to do their presentations. That would be fantastic. What's going to happen is we'll hear from all the presentations first, and then there will be time for a question and answer at the end. So please feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat as we go. And if we have time at the end, you'll also be able to verbally ask your questions during that Q&A session. So just a little overview of the session for today. We've got a great range of speakers for you. We've got Ellen Atkinson, who's going to discuss the range of disabilities and additional needs and highlight the strengths and abilities of people with additional needs. We'll then move on to Sam Dumfrey, who is here to talk to us about the supported internship programme at South Essex College and how employers can support with that. We're then really lucky to have 3 employers with us today to talk about their employment opportunities and the other support that they're involved in this area. So that's Caddies in Southend, Thurrock Council and London Southend Airport. So thank you for you 3 for coming today. Finally, we'll hear from the Making It Work team and also Disability Rights UK about the support that's available for businesses. Following all of that, we will then have our Q&A session, and Rosie will finish us up with the calls to action for you all. So just to put this into context a little bit and the work that we're doing today, the National Office of Statistics shows that around 50% of disabled people aged 16 to 64 in the UK are in employment, and that was a stat from last year. However, when you compare that to around 80% of non-disabled people, you can see that there's some work to do in this area. We're actually in the southeast region, and in this region we are just above the national average with around 60% of disabled people in employment, which is the highest in the country, which is fantastic. But as I say, still more work that we should be doing. The unemployment rate for disabled people is double that of non-disabled people. So that's 8.4 compared to 4.6, and that was from the end of December last year. So again, more work to be done, and that's why we've asked you to come, so you can see how you can get involved. It's shown that disabled people in work are significantly less likely to be employed as managers or in professional occupations. They're more likely than non-disabled people to hold elementary jobs in industries such as care, hospitality and customer services. And at the moment, this poses an increased concern for us in this, I'd like to say post-COVID world, although I'm not quite sure we're there in that post world, but sort of coming hopefully towards the end of the pandemic at least, where many people have had to change jobs, they've been made redundant. And in these industries in particular, there is more competition than ever for those jobs. And we're seeing that especially locally within the hospitality and care sectors. In 2017, the government, through their Improving Lives white paper, set out how they plan to support 1 million more disabled people into employment within the next 10 years. And within that, there is support for individuals as well as for businesses and what's been implemented. And we'll hear more about some of that support this morning. So just to close and to hand back to Rosie, there is lots of research that shows the real positive link between health and wellbeing and employment. And Southend and Thurrock, we're obviously striving for economic growth, but in particular, we're striving for economic inclusion and prosperity. And this just forms a small part of that work that we're doing. So thank you again for coming today. I hope you, and I have no doubt that you'll get a lot out of this morning's event. But for now, I'll hand back to Rosie to get us going with the speakers.
Thank you very much, Hyla, for opening the session. So next up, we have Ellen Atkinson from Preparing for Adulthood, who is the Regional Advisor. I'll stop sharing my slides so you can, Ellen.
I'll try, Rosie, just let's see if it happens. Something's happening. Okay, can you see that? Has it come up?
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Okay, hi everybody. I know some of you on the call, but not very many actually, because this is probably a different audience to who I normally speak to. As Rosie said, I'm the Regional Advisor for the Preparing for Adulthood programme, and I cover the East of England and the East Midlands, and I'll just tell you a little bit about the Preparing for Adulthood programme as we go through. And just to reflect on Hyla's comments around statistics, etc., disabled people are disproportionately represented in the labour market. And I just wanted to highlight that particularly if you have a learning disability, you're even less likely to be represented. And I think it's good to have a think about what that means this morning. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a focus on that. So the Preparing for Adulthood programme, we're commissioned by the Department for Education to support the implementation of the special educational needs and disability reforms that came in 2014. And the reason they came in is because the old system around statementing, etc., wasn't working. They moved away from that statementing process to something called an education, health and care plan. And if you're an employer, you may not know very much about that, but if you're in education or you're working in a local authority, you'll know more about it. Our programme's based on the evidence of what works to try and support children and young people to have good lives and to move on into adulthood with jobs and be as independent as possible and have friends and good health. But we have to really think about how we start to think about that from much earlier, when everything starts and the foundations are laid for the rest of someone's life. This is a graphic that we developed at the very beginning of the Preparing for Adulthood programme back in 2012 as a precursor to the reforms. And I don't think it's by accident that employment's at the top, but this graphic was created by speaking to over 400 families and young people and asking them what they wanted in their lives. And these are the things that they said they wanted. They wanted to have a job, they wanted to be as independent as possible, they wanted to be part of their local community and to stay as healthy as possible. But I think if we think about health is really I suppose the key pin thing to be. If you're not healthy, then you can't do the other things. But actually, if you're in a job, then the other things drop out. If you're working, you're usually more independent and you're usually seen as part of your community and you have a social network. Work gives people purpose. It gives you choices. It also helps you develop a social network. We know that people are better off mentally. Their mental health is better if they're in work and better physically. And it gives you status within your community. And if you have a learning disability, up until recent years, we haven't seen much of a shift in employment for people with learning disabilities. And Sam's going to talk about supported internship, which is supported internships and traineeships probably. And I think that's the biggest shift we've seen around supporting people into the labour market. So these are the PFA pathways. And why do we think they're important? So the pathways help us remember that children and young people with additional needs have the same aspirations and needs and rights as all young people. And they help us remember what a good life is for all children and young people. That's a gloriously ordinary life. That's what we want for ourselves. And they help us find out what the child or young person aspirations are and what's important to them now and in the future. And they help us support children and young people and their families plan for better life outcomes as they move forward through the stages of their life. You have to excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold, so my voice may not last, but let's hope it does. So if we want to make employment happen for young people, we've had traditionally very low aspirations and expectations about what young people can achieve if they've got additional needs. And we know that by the age of 26, disabled people are 4 times more likely than their non-disabled peers to be unemployed. But we actually know, and we know from all the research, that people can work. And just thinking about some of the myths that surround people with disabilities, particularly someone with a learning disability, is that they can't work, or they can only do a certain job, or maybe only work a couple of hours a week and won't do a good job. But actually, we know that all these things are completely false. It's completely the other way. We know they can work, and they can work full time and do many jobs, and they will be welcomed by an employer. So what are the benefits to an employer for employing someone with additional needs? So we've had employers who recruit disabled people report that there are cost savings from workplace analysis and simplified processes. Quite often someone who has additional needs will suggest a change, or there'll be a change made for that person because they perhaps can't do it the same as everybody else. But actually that simplified process ultimately benefits everybody. They report that there's increased customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. There was a survey done in America a few years back that actually said that 82% of people, when they were asked, were more likely to favour a business who had a diverse workforce. It also improves the reputation and image internally and externally of a business. Staff feel good to be involved in a diverse workforce. There's also reports from research done by Bayer and Bayer in 2017 that there's reduced staff turnover because individuals with additional needs quite often are very happy to stay in one job, and you don't get that churn of staff. But it's also, if we're working with an organisation that supports people into work, you're getting good job matching, and so people aren't leaving because they don't like the job, because they've been matched to the job up front. And I think Sam will say a little bit more about that when he speaks. It also means that you've got a wider pool of labour and talent that reflects the local community that people live in. Okay, so thinking about some of the small changes that you can make. You can build a really supportive team when you've got people with additional needs. You can work with an organisation to help you do some disability awareness training. And there can be some advice about reasonable adjustments that can be made for someone if they have additional needs. And the Department for Work and Pensions has a fund called Access to Work, which helps make those reasonable adjustments. And often adjustments aren't big. In fact, most reasonable adjustments cost less than £100 for someone with additional needs to get into the workplace. But it's really a way of identifying that support that someone needs to keep them in the workplace. Often there are some attitudes and that are based on the prejudice or stereotypes of what people can do. And sometimes the physical environment disables people from accessing employment, which shouldn't really happen in this day and age, because we've got the Equalities Act, which means premises should be accessible, etc. But if you do have to make changes, then those barriers can be supported through access to work. Often there isn't enough support for a person, so it's good to work with perhaps a supported employment organisation or a learning provider who have job coaches. And I think Sam will talk more about job coaches when he speaks. It's about really making sure that someone has the right support and the choice of what they want to work at. We have to think about that person at the centre and making sure we're working with them to find out what they're good at, and perhaps what they're not good at, and what they're interested in and what they're not interested in, so we can match them to the right job. So getting a good match between that employer and the job seeker. Thinking about your recruitment processes and approaches. Are your application processes, are they accessible to individuals with additional needs? Do you offer something called a working interview, which is when a person comes in and is trained to do the job, and they can show you what they can do before they actually are successful in that job? And then looking at job coach support, there are some supported employment organisations out there who have job coaches who are trained to support individuals. And we're seeing a big resurgence of job coaches being trained and being there to support individuals in the workplace. Okay. So just to think about, there are a couple of case studies here. They're on our website, the Preparing for Adulthood website, and I'm not going to go through this whole case study, but Nathan is a really able young man, but he did need support to help him get into his job, and now he works in construction, and he was able to show what he could do by sharing with his employer what he constructed at home, which was a barbecue with his father. Now, the employer was quite nervous about taking Nathan on, but working with the job coach, the employer was, any of his concerns were addressed, and Nathan is now employed full-time with the business. And all this happened through lockdown. So clearly working outside was a good thing during lockdown. There's another case study there about a young woman who got her job through lockdown, and that's what was working in a day nursery. So if you're interested in finding out about some young people who are working and the types of things they can do, please look at the website. Okay. So really, in summary, for what we want to think about, it's how do we make sure that we get people thinking about work and planning for work from much earlier, and making sure that we raise expectations of children and young people with learning disabilities to get them into the workplace. And we really need to have good conversations. And as part of supported employment, we talk about something called a vocational profile, which is a way of capturing all the things that a person has done, for instance, like work experience, or if they can travel independently, if they have any medication that they need to take during the day, and finding out all the things that matter to them in a profile that actually can help a job coach match them to a particular job. We also know that employing disabled workers carries business benefits, and I've mentioned those already. And I just want to say that most adjustments are small, with changes often benefiting all employees, not just the person with additional needs. And I would suggest that if you are an employer, that you work with a supported employment organisation or a learning provider who have job coaches and understand the supported employment process around place, train and fade. So that's the process where the individual is placed in the workplace, they're trained to do the job, and then the job coach fades away gradually when that individual becomes confident and competent in doing the job. And it allows them to show what they can do before you actually employ them. I think the most important bullet point on this slide, though, is that we need to have a presumption of employability. I mean, I believe everybody can work if we just figure out how to support them. I started off in supported employment probably about 30 years ago, and it makes me feel a bit old now. But actually, we've seen an increase in employment rates, but as Hyla said, not enough. But we have to believe that people can work, and if we don't believe that they can work, then we're doing them a disservice. And I have seen lots of people who perhaps don't use words to communicate, are wheelchair users, but they can go into the workplace if we find out the right job and the right place for them. And I think, I don't know where the slides have gone, Rosie. They've disappeared all of a sudden. But just the last slide had, I think we were there, and it was my just my email address and any contact details. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Ellen. Sorry about that. I think that was my mistake, but thank you very much for your presentation, Ellen. Before we move on to Sam at 9:35, who's going to talk about the supported internship that Ellen mentioned in her presentation, I'm just going to take the next 10 minutes to bring some of this to life and to show you two videos of a young man who's working on a construction site. So I'm just going to share my screen. Please let me know if you can't hear or see this, and somebody just call out, but I'm just going to start the video now.
Dedicated, strong and always on time for work, Todd Scanlon is a model employee, so his boss Martin is thrilled he's just been crowned Britain's top apprentice.
Amazing, very proud of him. And for us as a company, like, it just shows that you give someone an opportunity and they grasp it.
Very pleased to be able to say the winner is Todd Scanlon.
How did it feel when you won that award?
Good. Proud. Happy.
Todd's colleagues love working with him, even if they don't see eye to eye on football.
United going to win the league, Todd?
Yeah. No, Liverpool.
Martin's never met another scaffolder with Down syndrome, but he could see Todd had loads of potential.
I think there's no limit to where he can go, but we're hoping to get him into college in some form that can take it on and getting him an MVQ in scaffolding, because you can see that he really wants to do it.
So what is it that Todd loves about his job?
My boss.
He's a good boss.
Yeah.
With an attitude like that, he'll clearly go far. Olivia Kinsley, 5 News.
Okay, and there's one more that goes in a little bit more detail.
My name's Todd Scaffolding.
My name's Martin Coles of Coles Scaffolding. I'm not always positive to see what this is achieving. Just having that odd person message me saying I've got a kid with severe disabilities and you've just gave me the hope that when they're old enough there's someone that would give them a job. You can't write that, can you? Do you know what I mean? That's someone saying that to you. That's from their heart, isn't it? How did you start working with me?
When I asked my mum, I work with Coles Scaffolding. Yeah, that's man.
Well, I've known Todd and his family for a long time, and he's always asked for a job, and he'd come and work for us. So I gave him a chance to come in, didn't I?
Yeah, good boss, and look after me.
Look after you.
Yeah.
Well, just have no idea why it hasn't happened before or whatever. It confuses me. I just don't understand why there aren't many people like Todd working in this industry, because you couldn't ask for a better employee. Tried loads of times to get in contact with them to get Todd on the course, because they're one of the main training providers for scaffolding, and we currently got apprentices with them. We had no joy with Todd. We constantly even were sending messages, phoning them, asking them to come and meet us and see if they can adapt or help get Todd through a course. We never got any joy from them. We had a company called Simeon. They contacted us via LinkedIn and said they would be happy to have Todd come down and see if they could help. You had to do a written test, didn't you?
Yeah.
Most people thought it was going to be very difficult for Todd. We knew that he knew enough to get through it. He went down there and he got 88% out of 100, which would probably be a lot more than I would get, to be fair. So this proved a lot of people wrong. You got a card, didn't you? What did you get? Show you.
Good scaffolding and helps.
You say to him, right, you do that. If someone starts getting it,
Jack, tell me. If you tell me off, me upset, don't do it, I'll do myself.
yeah, you're powerful, aren't you?
Yeah.
He's doing it, isn't he? And he's focused, and that's it. So
You know, carefully to me. You know heights. You know ladder. It's not safe for me.
yeah, when it's not fixed, you can't go up it, can you?
No.
He carries everything, exactly the same as everyone else, but got to tell him to calm down, because he is strong as an ox, isn't you?
Yeah.
Even when you're down, he makes you smile. Every day is a good day when he's in. It's weird. He's like infectious. He's always smiling. He's always laughing. That's probably one of the best things. He just loves it. Do you know what I mean? Your turn now. I ain't listening.
Yeah, of course, to make me laugh out. Timing and dancing.
Dancing?
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, Tom, do a dance, and he's, he loves the dancing.
Worms.
The worms?
Yeah.
He can, do you know the actual worm?
You do the worm?
He can actually do the fucking worm. No stigma here. Just means that you can come and work for us, and we've got no boundaries. Don't matter if you're a woman, man, disability, non-disability. We take anyone on. Hey, what's going on?
Okay, so next up on our agenda, it is Sam Dunphy, who is the team leader of the supported internship at South Essex College. So over to you, Sam.
Thank you very much, Rosie. Do you want me to share my PowerPoint, or can you share it?
Yes, please. That would be lovely if you can share first.
Right, let's give it a go. Is that okay?
Fab.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today. I'm Sam Dunphy, team leader for supported internship at South Essex College. So my role is to oversee the supported internships across our sites. I line manage all the job coaches. I have 6 under me currently across our different sites, which we've got Southend, Basildon and Thurrock currently. And to ensure that the programme goes smoothly and all the young people get into work placements and employers are in partnership together, and it's a meaningful experience for everyone involved. So just a little bit of background information for you. So obviously the supported internship come around, so 15 colleges took part in the 2012-13 supported internship trial, which was set up by the Department for Education. Our supported internship is obviously one type of study programme specifically aimed at young people aged between the ages of 16 to 24 who have additional needs, disabilities, autism, etc., and have the education, health and care plan. Majority of the students that come on a supported internship are really aged between 18, 19 plus, but we have had a couple of students that are sort of 16, 17, depending on what they wanted to do. The idea of the internship is that they want to move into employment, but just need that extra support to do so, and that's where we come in. In September 2017-18, obviously we piloted the supported internship programme, which was just in Southend, and we had such an uptake of the programme, so now it's run over all 3 sites currently as it's going forward. So what is a supported internship? So a supported internship is a structured study programme which is in partnership with local employers who offer unpaid work placements for a minimum of 6 months to a maximum of around 9 months, depending when they start. It allows the intern to equip the skills they need for work through learning in the workplace, with the additional support from a job coach who would actually work alongside the student and the employer at the work placement for their full time to start with, and then decreases the support as time goes forward once people are confident and happy doing so, which I'll come on to in a little bit later. Interns will also study relevant qualification, including English and maths at the college. So that's usually sort of 1 or 2 days a week. And then the rest of the time during the week is when they spend on their work placement. So how does it work? So obviously it's delivered over a 1-year academic year, which starts in September. They would do things like English, maths and employability with a tutor at the college, and would also do relevant training needed for that workplace. So it could be things like manual handling, it could be food hygiene, whatever sort of training might need to be involved, we can try and look at that and work with employers for the students to get that completed. So they're all good to go. The work placements sort of start a little bit later, so they get staggered from November, December and January, and they go all the way to end of June. So it's a meaningful, long working interview, if you like Ellen was saying. So it allows the time for you to see that young person working, see what they can do, allow them time to learn the role and become fully suitable during that time frame. Obviously, interns would learn the role, the support robust job coaching, utilising the training and systematic instruction. Now, TSI is a great tool of breaking down tasks to students with sort of learning disabilities, and just where the job coach will come in to support the young person, learning the job, learning the tasks needed, and also working with the employer and the employees, working with that young person to do that. So it's a great tool, and that's where we can support. It's a flexible delivery model as well, so we can add things into it, we can take things out depending on what the employer is looking for, depending on the young people that we've got on board, because every young person is different, what they want to do and the skills that they've got. So we're very adaptable to look at that as well, and especially with the days and hours that they would do on work placement, we can be very flexible with starting and increasing that as time goes forward. The main thing as well, which is such a great opportunity, is that it provides an appropriate opportunity for both yourselves as employers and the intern. So it's like a try before you buy type of thing. So you've got that young person in your business. You get to see what they're like. You get to see what skills they've got, how they fit into the team, and how powerful they can be in the business, because everyone can work. It's just that opportunity to do so. So you get to see firsthand before you make a decision, because the course is fully unpaid. It's all free service. But you just need the opportunity to allow them to do the job role, really. And same for the intern, they get to learn the job role and make sure it's something they do want to do down the line, to make sure it's a meaningful experience for everyone. And obviously the goal for the intern is for them to gain paid employment at the end, whether that's part-time, full-time, it could be an apprenticeship, we've had that before as well. But we're not saying it's a guaranteed outcome. Again, we get towards the end, the job coach would have that negotiation with you to see whether you've got a vacancy and the intern is suitable. And if they are, then that's when we can do the come together and offer that paid employment, which is obviously the goal. What support would you get as an employer? So the main thing, again, the best thing you get is a job coach who would support the young person with disability, learn, accommodate and perform their work duties to a higher standard. To the standard that you require as a business. It would also facilitate the business and other employees to become confident in working with the young person to ensure it is successful for everyone involved. So whatever that involves, they will be there to support both the intern as well as you as a business, and always on the end of the phone, and will always be at the business at some point. Completion of all the boring stuff, the paperwork, the risk assessments, the job coach would do all that side of things. So it takes that off you guys. We just make sure the risk assessment's done, health and safety is in place, and we can do all that. We would also implement support plans which will enable the interns to become competent in work and related skills. So using the place, train and fade model, as Ellen's already gone on to. So again, we look at the job match for that young person to ensure it is going to be suitable. We place them in the business, we train them alongside you as an employer, and then we fade away to allow them to have that independence, confidence and resilience moving forward as well, which is very, very important. And let me move out of the way. And also the job coach will use systematic instruction as a form of learning new tasks as well. Again, I've already spoken about that, but it's something we support the intern with. So benefits to your business. Obviously, as I said, it's completely free, doesn't cost anything at all. And we like to think of ourselves as a free job matching service as well. So we're picking the right candidate which you get to meet. So the intern would have learned the role and be fully trained and ready for when a paid vacancy may arise. And also therefore reduces your actual recruitment cost for your business, because you won't need to go look elsewhere and look for other employees, because you've had that young person working for you, already trained, ready to go as and when you need. It's also new ways of organising and distributing workload. So depending on the employer and the intern, so taking on intern may support the business to break down sort of job roles into component tasks, maximising sort of staff skills and abilities in that business. So it's something we call job carving. So you may have a full job role, but you may pick specific elements out of that job role for that one person to do that will maximise everyone else's skills and abilities, which is a great thing to be doing nowadays. Obviously, elevated morale. I've seen this firsthand many times. It improves the morale of team working while giving existing staff the chance to lead and improve their personal performance. So all the employees always get involved. They're always very supportive and want that young person to do well, and always got their back. So it's a very meaningful experience for everyone involved. So what do we actually need from you as a business? Firstly, just to be open-minded and interested in potentially taking on an intern or two, maybe, moving forward. The main thing we need to do, as myself, would be to understand your needs as a business. So what you're looking for, potentially what job roles you have on offer, so we know that side of it from your perspective. Opportunity to understand the role and tasks required. So we may come down and just sort of observe employees working, understand what they do and sort of timeframes. And that will allow us to job match a suitable intern to your business, someone that has interest in that area, and then we can support them learning that job moving forward. If possible as well, we'd love to have them as an assigned mentor, so someone they can work with and develop the job role, and that way the job coach can support the mentor in all areas. They will still be there, but to oversee it and support as and when they may be needed. But I do appreciate, obviously, every business is different, so it might not always be possible, hence why the job coach can be there more to train and support as and when needed. Obviously, to encourage the interns to fit in, which is really important. So providing uniform, lunch with colleagues, everything you would do with any other employee, because you should treat them as any other employee, basically. They're no different. So it's just really good for them to get involved. And more importantly, obviously, giving the interns real jobs that would actually support your business, because that way it's going to be meaningful for you, because you need that young person to be in a position where you could offer them a job, not just doing something that's not going to be possible to offer them at the end. So it's just making sure that we're keeping it as suitable as we possibly can. Just a few feedback from businesses that we've worked with. So we have really enjoyed having an intern work with us, and they have proven better than some of my existing staff. That was one for when I worked with one employer. That was really good, and that was when the conversation came about paid employment, because he was at the standard, ready to move forward. The team is now more aware of the diverse needs of young people, and we have each developed our communication and delivery skills. From the wider business perspective, it has given us a far better insight into challenges young people with SEND face when attempting to enter employment, and just how much of an asset these young people can be to employers. These young people have so much potential. So there's just a few feedback and quotes from employers for you, which is amazing to hear. Now, so obviously we're in partnership with quite a lot of employers in the area, but I've just picked some sort of different ones across our sites that we do. So the biggest one currently, which is fantastic, is we're working with the NHS Mid and South Essex NHS Foundation Trust. So we've just set up a pilot at the Basildon Hospital University, where we have 12 interns all working at the hospital, and they're based there. So their learning's done there and their work placements are done there as well. And the scope for job roles and the interest that they have as managers is amazing. Everyone is so excited, and they've just started doing their placements now, which will go on to the end of June. And they do have an opportunity to try 3 different job roles to get more experience and skills in different areas to ensure what job role they might want to do. We're also setting up at Southend, so we're currently setting it up at Southend for next September, which is really, really good, and we're very excited to move forward. We've worked with IKEA as well in Thurrock, in Grays by Lakeside, and they are fantastic, so supportive, and I'll go on to the success story after this slide. We have worked with Caddies as well. George is on the call, and George is a fantastic guy who's supported us and has taken on an intern. I think it must be a few years ago now that we've worked with George, with a young person who works in the kitchen. We've worked with Veolia, which I supported a young man in the recycling for Veolia, which got offered full-time employment. Thurrock Council have been amazing as well for the scope of different job roles that they offer in schools. The Green Team, what's the other one? Yeah, such a variety of different industries. Woodside Academy is one of the schools that are taking on an apprenticeship from an intern, and Hollywood Bowl as well. So they're just a few employers that we use currently and have done. So a success story, just picked a couple. There's so many I'd like to go on to, but I know I'm on a time slot, so I'll try not to go over. So this is Katie. So she completed her internship at IKEA, which lasted for the 6 months before she was easily offered 16+ hours employment, because she'd done such fantastic work. They were so happy with her. And they've actually asked for 2 or 3 more interns for next year already, because they know how well it works for them as a business, as well as for that young lady, Katie. And as you can see, she worked actually through the pandemic when they were closed, because they still had staff going in. So she was supporting in the restaurant. So she'd done so well, so she thoroughly deserved that opportunity. This is William. So the support from Thurrock Council, supported through the Green Team, was offered full-time employment from just doing at least 6 months on a placement, and he's been employed going all around Thurrock, doing maintenance all across that area, which was fantastic. So just a couple for you to show. And that is it from me. Obviously, if you have any questions, obviously, I know we've got the Q&A at the end. Those are my details, so feel free to get in contact. I'm more than happy to speak to you about anything and set up a separate meeting to discuss further. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Sam, for your presentation. We've got quite a few claps going on, virtual claps, so thank you.
Oh, good.
You've led us really nicely into our next speaker, who is George, and he is the director of Caddies Inside Crazy Golf in Southend-on-Sea. Just wanted to remind you guys, we are having a Q&A at the end, so if you think of any questions throughout these presentations, pop them into the chat and we'll pick them up at the end. But over to you, George, now from Caddies.
Hello everyone, I haven't got any fancy slides or anything like that. I'm just going to go the bog standard traditional talking with my face for your own enjoyment. So we're on the high street. We're an indoor sort of crazy golf. We're a restaurant and bar. We've got a comedy club. Been here for 3.5–4 years now altogether. One of the directors in the company, and we're independently owned, just one site. It all kind of started on an internship with Sam, and it was about a few years ago now. Sam came to us and said, we've got this supported internship scheme. Before then, I think, I think we hadn't employed anyone with a disability or, additional needs or anything like that. Not through sort of like any choice or anything. It was just our understanding of, which we'll come on to later, is kind of our application and recruitment process, and a number of things which we did made that a lot more difficult than it needed to be unnecessarily. And we took on 2 supported internships. And throughout that process, it was a real eye-opener on a personal level and a business level, and also for the entire team in terms of kind of how we went about our day-to-day. We didn't realise just by changing some minor things that it didn't just help people with additional needs, but also it could help the entire team. And throughout the whole process, we learned a hell of a lot and changed a lot the way that we did things. And it was a really great experience for us and for all the team, actually. I think everyone spoke very highly of it, and really sort of found it a huge benefit to the company and everyone personally. We employed both Adam and Devontae, and they still both work for us now. I'd say Devontae, like Sam will know, when he started with us, didn't speak, was very, very shy, and now he gives as much abuse to everyone else in the kitchen as everyone else, and he's part of the crew, and it's fantastic, and he mocks my shirts on a daily basis, which I'd take great pleasure at. But it's that was fantastic. And then through that, Rosie then approached and started talking about St. Christopher's School, and then we started working with Tracy there. And through that, we've done a host of things such as placement days. So we had, I think it was about 60, 70 students come down. One of the things that Tracy's been fantastic with is giving us an understanding about our recruitment process, particularly how, it's the traditional form of doing a CV, hand it in, isn't the fairest, and making assessments on CVs isn't the best way of going about things, because some people may have the experience, but one of the things we noticed was there was people coming in with great experience, but they weren't very passionate. Staff retention was a lot lower. And it's, yes, they could do the job, but they didn't do it with much enthusiasm or passion. And what we actually now, our employment criteria is very much on, finding people that are passionate about our product, what we do, and enjoy the job itself. And that's, probably been a big takeaway of dealing with Tracy in our recruitment process. Now lends itself more towards that than going on an experience basis, which doesn't necessarily, yes, they can tick a box and do a job, but doesn't mean they're going to do it with much enthusiasm or passion, which is what we're always looking for. So we've took on a number of work experience placements as well, and a few of them have gone into employment as well, where they're going to find other work elsewhere within the hospitality and leisure industry, and it's been that's been a really good opportunity to help develop and grow further as a business, and also raise up the conversation of disability and additional needs and support as a company. I don't think before in team meetings, we now openly talk about people's mental well-being. We talk about depression, anxiety. We talk about a number of things that affect actually surprisingly quite a lot of people within our teams, but it's just not discussed. Probably 3 years ago, I don't think anyone would have spoken about those things because it just wasn't discussed, and maybe people were a bit embarrassed or shy or didn't feel they could. But now the work environment that we have is certainly a lot more open. We'll have down days, bad days, and it's not perfect. There's no perfect work environment. Things go wrong, but there's this really lovely thing amongst the team as a result of this whole experience that people are more understanding. When we talk a lot more as a team, and we do a whole host of things together as a team to help people when they're having bad days and improve things, etc. So from our perspective as a business, we've seen that we now have a far more passionate and diverse workforce, that communicates better. We all support and help each other, and our staff retention is the best it has been in the 3-4 years that we've been trading, because we employ people that love the work, love what we're doing. That's a couple of the work experiences we've taken at the moment. One really wants to be, work on the bar and do cocktails, etc. And gives that 110%. And certainly in the kitchen as well, we've got a couple of lad in there actually, Jamie, who really wants to be a chef, and he puts some of our existing workforce to shame, to be honest with you, in terms of how enthusiastic he is about that. Makes a cracking lasagna as well. So if anyone's looking for a really good lasagna, I highly recommend him. It's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I say, I'm not sort of like preaching on anything, but just from our experience, I was very hesitant at the beginning of this journey in terms of I saw more, I was focusing too much on the negatives and the cons of, it's going to be more work, it's going to be too much of a cost, ill-informed opinions, but they were still, I imagine that most employers still have those reservations. But Sam was really fantastic in terms of when he came in and spoke about the supported internship, and from that we then through Rosie got involved with St. Christopher's School, and it's been a really fantastic journey. I really learned a lot from it, so has the team, and yeah, I can't highly recommend any of these programs or initiatives or get involved enough, because yeah, the benefits have been fantastic. And hopefully the young people that have come to us, and whether they've done work experience or they've carried on with employment with us, or come and done one of our placement days or anything like that, it's hopefully it just helps in their journey as well, of a career in, from our perspective, hospitality, because it's a fantastic and very diverse industry, from bar work to kitchen work to hostess work. There's it really is endless. So yeah, it's a bad piece of advice. I wouldn't say a bit of advice, but I'd say just give it a go, particularly with the likes of the sport internship or helping out through the enterprise scheme with Rosie. There really is nothing to lose. It's the honest answer. There's only benefits. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the matter, really.
Thank you very much, George, for sharing your experience. You've done so much in the local area with supported interns, long-term work experience, short industry visit days, and you're so open to all young people. So thank you very much. And I think you hit on a really important point about the loyalty and enthusiasm of people with additional needs and how that can really help in hospitality roles. So thank you, George. That was a fantastic overview. I'm now going to lead on to Mark, who has also taken part in the supported internship in Thurrock Council. He's head of green spaces, and he's just going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes sharing his experience of working with supported interns. So I'll take you off spotlight, George, don't worry. Right, over to you, Mark.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is not my forte, to be honest with you, and I haven't got any slides to hide behind either, so you're going to have to put up with me. My name's Mark, work for Thurrock Council. I'm responsible for the green team. I basically look after all the parks and open spaces across the borough, responsible for keeping those open, working, maintained. I look after all the highways, so all the grass verges, roundabouts and every bit of grass and bush that you see throughout Thurrock. I'm responsible for that. As well as we also deal with a lot of elderly and vulnerable people. We deal with the complexes and the homes that we keep maintained and keep looking nice. And we also run many seasonal programs, one of which is an assisted gardens program, which runs for elderly and vulnerable people across the borough who haven't got anybody to cut their grass or look after their gardens. So quite a lot of responsibility, sight lines, and we worked through the pandemic to make sure the open spaces were accessible to everybody. So that's my role. I've been involved, I think, with South Essex College. I haven't met Sam, so hi, Sam. But I've been involved with them now for, I think it's getting on for, it must be about a year. And we've taken, I think it's about 4 candidates so far, and we're looking to do more, to be honest with you. I'll go on to the success story with William that Sam was talking about shortly. So I think my experience, or the first thing I want to talk about is probably my fears at first. So I've just written down a couple, so excuse me if I keep having to go back and have a look. So the fears that I had at the beginning when this first came about was I thought there would be a lot more admin that I'd have to do. And obviously that's not really my forte, admin. So I was very worried about the admin. However, I think the job coaches, which I'll touch on in a minute, came down, reassured me. We'd done literally a risk assessment, had a chat, sat down, and in all fairness, I've had to do no admin since. I just have to sit down every now and then. We have a chat and a catch up and a cup of coffee. So, that's really good and hasn't taken up any time. And I think that would be most people's concern, I would imagine, or many concerns. The other one I had was I thought I was going to be under a lot of pressure to change the way we worked and the way we do things out there. I thought we was going to be under a lot more scrutiny and there would be a lot more pressure to do things differently. However, again, and I can't praise the job coaches enough. They've come down, they've listened to us, they've worked so well with us. There's no interference, and the big thing for me was and still is that if these young people need to come to work, I really want to treat them as part of the team and get them out there and not treat them any differently as much as I can. But yes, I understand there's certain needs and certain aspects. However, the big thing for me was we work out in the open with very little supervision. We have got team leaders, and I was worried that would restrict us, but it hasn't. And I'm pleased to say it hasn't. So the job coaches, yes, have been very, very supportive. They let us get on with it. They let us do what we need to do. We're in regular contact. They come and visit the guys at work. But again, there's no interference. In fact, they actually put their boots on and chip in. I think Ashley the other week, Sam, as you will probably adhere to. Yeah, so from my point of view, that was a real great thing that we haven't had to change or been restricted in anything we do. We've just been allowed to develop these people or these youngsters as part of the team and just as we would treat any other member of a team or anybody joining. I think for them, that's a real good thing because they develop themselves and I see them gradually, as part of the team, they develop and they come out of their shell. They're a lot more confident and they grow more. And we are left with that freedom to do what we want. So, if that's a fear of anybody, then I can allay that now. Again, it sounds probably daunting at first about job coaches and about coming down and then gradually go, but it works perfectly. And like I said, now Gillian and Ash come down regularly. They phone me on a regular basis. We have coffee. We sat down yesterday. We have meetings. So, I've got to say it's very relaxed, very informal, without lots and lots of admin. So, they were my fears, which have all been allayed. And, I'm happy to say that we get on, I think, famously. So that's good. So I think from our point of view, what we've gained from this is, I think it's made us look and probably be a little bit more professional. I think what we've taken for granted for a long time in our procedures, inductions, meetings, one-to-ones, I think it's made us focus a lot more on what we should be doing and going back to basics and making sure that we do the one-to-one meetings, that we make sure that our procedures are followed more closely, and that we're doing the right thing, the training aspect of it, whereas we may have gone a little bit off-piste at some points. I think it sort of brought us to focus, right, okay, these guys, we owe them, and we've got a responsibility to make sure we train them properly, the health and safety aspect, make sure we're coaching, make sure we're getting the best out of them, but also giving them the benefit of our experience. So I think it's focused us all a little bit more on procedures and where we go. I think from my team's point of view, I think it's great for my team leaders and the guys out on the teams to progress their skills. And I think that's helped them. They've got an additional responsibility that they may not normally have. And I think it's focused them and made them a lot more productive and a lot more thoughtful, and maybe a lot more professional all round. So, in that respect, I'm really pleased about that. So I think the success stories we've had so far, and I know that Sam touched on it, William, who came to us, the very first person we had in, very quiet, quite a shy lad, and we met his mum come down with him, and we met his mum, and we're always happy to meet the parents and have a chat with them and allay any fears they've got, which I think is a good thing, so that they know where we're going. William came in, and we had the induction, we put him on a team, and we put him on assisted gardens, and we put him on the maintenance. And to be fair, absolutely brilliant. He'd done everything he was asked to do, if not more. He was always busy, never sitting around. And yes, you're right, Sam, we did offer him employment. We are lucky because we have lots of temporary contracts and we have lots of seasonal contracts, so that's always good going forward. But William came in and he'd done a fantastic job, paid work. I believe he's having a rest at the moment, but he's due to come back to us in February now, and we're looking forward to that. Currently, we've got a guy called Ben, who, again, very shy, very quiet lad, but he's coming out of his shell and he's responded well to everything we've told him. If he's doing something wrong, we sit down and we make sure we talk to him and we make sure that we train him, and he's responded well to everything. And I can't praise him enough, and he's come on leaps and bounds. So we're about to take on another guy, Chris, who came in for an interview yesterday. So he seems very enthusiastic. Again, we met his father yesterday. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think Gary is another guy that's starting with us on Tuesday. So, again, this is not my forte speaking, but all I would say to anyone who's thinking about this, it doesn't really put any pressure on you day to day, and it is fulfilling, and you will get an extra pair of hands out of it. And these guys work, and they do work, and they're happy to work, and they're happy they've got a job, they're happy they've got an opportunity, and they will repay you with that. Or that's what I've found so far. So please, if anyone's sort of thinking about it or debating or sitting on the fence, dip your toe in the water, and it's not a bad thing. So if that's too short, I'm sorry, but that's it from me. I'm not very good at this.
You did a great job, probably for one of your first public speaking, Mark. So thank you very much for sharing your story. It's great to hear from George about hospitality roles, and then from yourself all about the other roles in the green spaces out in the open that young people were taking part and excelling within with you, Mark. So thank you very much. That's been a really great overview, especially how it sort of allayed some of your fears, because I'm sure some of the employees in the call could be feeling the same. So next up, it's led us nicely into our next speaker. So you guys have now heard about the different employers involved in supported internships, but our next speaker is Stuart, who's head of HR at London Southend Airport, and they're now going to share with you their experience of providing work experience opportunities and how they've been involved with the council to provide opportunities to young people while they're still at school. So welcome, Stuart. I'll now spotlight you, Mark, and you can relax. Stuart, you're not off the hook though. You're now spotlighted for everybody.
I see if I was or not. Excellent, excellent. Well done, Mark, and everyone else. Fantastic conversations and speeches so far. As Rosie alluded to, my little chat today is going to be focusing on the work we've been doing in the local community, really focusing on how we are committing to prepare the future workforce, really, that we'll need as a growing airport. But I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. We're aiming to build really meaningful partnerships with some local employers, which is why I'm talking to you guys today, local colleges, schools, and situ to really set an express aim to ensure, as a major employer in the community, we are as inclusive to all and ensure that we have no barriers for anyone to reach their full potential. So, as many of you may know, an airport is a very wide and diverse employer. Behind the scenes of what you see as you come through an airport, that you may see some security or customer service roles, but behind that machine there is hundreds, literally multiple hundreds of different roles which make that machine operate and make that machine work. So if I can kind of think about what we are currently looking for in recruiting, we have a wide range of roles like firefighters, air traffic controllers, engineers of all descriptions, from electrical, mechanical, HVAC, etc. In the future, we'll be looking at hard and soft services roles, customer service roles, retail, hospitality, surface access, operations. As you can probably see, I'm reading from a list now because there is so many. Including security as well, and then we move into some of our support functions. So in the very near future, we'll be increasing our roles in the office function, really, like marketing and HR and finance, etc. The reason I'm kind of trying to paint that picture, as we are recovering from the pandemic, and as many businesses, aviation is taking quite a hard hit on it. We expect in the next 2-3 years, as we grow back and then accelerate our growth as an employer, when we get back to pre-pandemic levels, we'll be recruiting well over 300 roles in the next 2 or 3 years. Expect that to increase up to probably more than 500 over the next 4 or 5 years, really. We are very committed to being a very local employer, and that is what one of our core strengths is, that we want to recruit from our local community, and we want to prepare our local community for that number of roles. To do that, we need to start talking to our young people now, to have them think about the career choices that they can make, so they move into the right future education or the right apprenticeship networks or apprenticeship routes or training routes, to take the opportunities that they have on their doorstep, literally, as the airport was literally on their doorstep. So we are very committed and very keen to be as open and as inclusive as possible. So we're working a lot with Rosie and Hyla and some of the wider team, talking to many schools and a various range of initiatives to hopefully inspire young people to consider a future career in aviation, or even see how it can be a stepping stone for them to be a really fruitful and meaningful career in anything from engineering through to air traffic control or customer service, hospitality, etc. So some of those initiatives that we're working on with Rosie include over the next couple of months, December through to February, we're aiming to offer hundreds of young people an opportunity to visit the airport and take part in some kind of immersive activities. Whilst we've got a small period of kind of downtime through the winter, we want to take that opportunity to really engage with young people and show them what the airport has to offer and what opportunities, as I say, is literally on their doorstep. So we're talking to schools via Rosie and the team, such as St Christopher's, YMCA College, and Sutton House, as well as a number of others. As an employer, it's just passionate to ensure that we are as inclusive as possible in those visits and in those conversations, so that no one can think that there is any barriers to their future potential, as I say. We've also worked with the Council and the Growth Economic Forum to develop a virtual tour for those who may have some barriers that they foresee that they might not want to enter the airport or look at that kind of environment. So it's particularly helpful for the SEND students who will be able to watch and familiarise themselves with the variety of roles and variety of opportunities the airport has. So the virtual tour is I believe, going to be published out to schools in the coming month or so, and that's where we've really done a bit of a day in the life of the dozens of different opportunities and roles and responsibilities different members of our team take. We've also been linked through the Enterprise Advisor Network with Sutton House Academy, which is a school for young people with special educational needs. And we're working quite hard with their head teacher over the next year to develop and improve their careers plan and their help their curriculum development, so that the young people there can see what destinations are available to them and make some really informed choices about what their journey is. As an employer, we're relatively new in this space. We've been doing lots of work in local community for years, obviously, but as we look to recover and look to rebuild and regrow, we're really keen that we are working hard in the local community to prepare the future workforce, as I say. So we are getting involved in many of these initiatives, and my ask to the wider employers on this call is that we all take this responsibility seriously and kind of work together on it if we can. So on that kind of point, we're working with the management team just now to widen up the opportunities that they get, that those guys and girls can have to really all take kind of pride in the mentoring schemes that they do yeah, as I say, get involved in that community initiatives. So as we recover from the pandemic, as I say, we'll be focusing quite strongly on apprenticeships and focusing quite strongly on bringing young people into the school and entry-level roles and developing them. So we're all kind of in this together as a local community of employers. So my ask to all is if we want to create a small kind of network of local employers that want to chat through how we can work together to improve opportunities for young people in this in our community, then please get in touch, either speak to us direct or via Rosie. At that point, Rosie, I'll hand back.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Stuart. Stuart's been doing so much for local schools and providing work experience opportunities, and you've been really inclusive in your approach, which is fantastic as a local employer. You haven't just been looking for our grammar school students or our mainstream, you've been really open as an employer to working with all of our young people with the support of the council. So thank you for sharing that. We're really looking forward to how the work experience goes. If you did want other employers in the call to contact you, please feel free to pop your email in the chat box, Stuart. And yeah, thank you very much. So next up, we've got the Making It Work team. We are slightly ahead of schedule, so I thought I'll give a quick 5 or 7 minute comfort break, and we'll come back at 10:20 if that's okay. Just a chance to get a quick cup of tea and go to the toilet, and then join us back at 10:20. Okay, so I see some cameras turning on, so I'm guessing that people are coming back now. So thank you very much. We've now going to finish the session with 2 final speakers from the Making It Work team in Southend Care and then Disabilities Rights UK, followed shortly by a 20-minute Q&A with the whole panel. So please do pop your questions in if you have any as we're going through. So I'd now like to introduce you to Sharon Needham, who is the Service Manager for the Making It Work team, part of Southend Care.
Hello, I'm going to try and share my presentation with you. Can everybody see that?
Perfect.
I have shared it. So yeah, I'm the manager of the Making It Work team. We work with under Southend Care Limited, which is an arm's length company of Southend Borough Council. So my funding, all of my funding is through Southend Borough Council. But the Southend Care team has its own values and behaviours. So our values and behaviours under Southend Care, we actually promote Southend Care's values and behaviours when supporting our clients. So we as a team have our own values and behaviours. However, we also support them in adopting these values. So the client will adopt our values and behaviours within their respective work placements. That's in addition to the company or the employer's own values and behaviours. But we try to instill those as we are supporting the client through. Some of the information about our service: we support over 130 employment placements within Southend-on-Sea, with over 150 clients being supported by our service. We have 30 odd people on our referral list at the moment that we're working through. We have a transition worker, and we're into the 2nd year of that transition worker being employed within the team, specifically working with young adults aged between 16 and 25. Now, the difference between the internship young adults and the adults that come to us are that they don't want to be into education. They want to come out of education. They no longer want to be in education. They want to go into the workplace. So we look at employment pathways with them. At the moment, we have 12 people, young people, working on our books with the transition worker. We have people in paid employment. We have people on business and educational courses, but specific so that they can learn the skills to go into the field of work that they have chosen, which is identified by the vocational profiles that we fill out. So some of the information and some of the terminology that I will be using, you will have heard from Sam, you would have heard from the Preparing for Adulthood team, who we work with and are actually supported by the transition support worker. The Making It Work team never sign anyone off the service. We give support for as long as the client is in employment or seeking employment. And our support is for both the employer and the employee, because the employer needs to know that we're there to support them if there are any issues or they have any concerns or any worries. So we actually are there for both. What we can provide, so we actually do quite a lot, and we are open to take on other things. If somebody will come to us and say, well, could you just help with this? I'm quite happy to do that. We do travel training to promote independence. So we support people to travel to work and to become independent in accessing their workplaces. And we do risk assessments and we sign them off. We never sign anybody off unless we feel that they are independent and safe in that journey, or as safe as possible. We support with finances benefits. So we work with the DWP and the disability coaches within the job centre. We support with job searching, writing CVs, job applications and interviews. We have our own bespoke work preparation training course, which we run twice a year. That's for our referrals. So if somebody's referred to us, we do the vocational profile, we meet with them, and then we identify that there may be certain areas that they may need additional support on. So in some cases, it could be behaviour, because some people have come straight from school, have never had a working environment, wouldn't know the etiquette of working, wouldn't know how to conduct themselves within a workplace. So that may be the element that we work on in that bespoke course. But we also keep it quite small, so maximum of about 5 people. But yeah, we do that, and that's a 12-week course. But we do have everything. So we do go through CV writing, we do go through how you would behave at an interview and how you would dress, and even the basics of you know, personal hygiene, and you know, the importance of looking after yourself and things like that. Job coaching, which you've heard before, we do that as well, because we feel it's important that we learn the job to know how to support the client best in that workplace. And actually, it's one of the nicer things that we do, because I love finding out about all these different jobs that are out there. And it is quite good to actually meet all the people from the different workplaces as well. We do regular workplace visits. They can range from weekly to monthly to 6 monthly to a phone call to arm's length. But as I say, we never sign anybody off. So if there's a problem in sort of a few months' time, then we will come into the workplace, or we're there to get guidance. Advocacy support. So the social care team have called on us on quite a few occasions to advocate, because we actually know the clients. So we can come in and do some advocacy as well. We have relationships, we have continual relationships with the clients. Crisis intervention. So that's personal and workplace related. So this could be somebody that we haven't actually supported into work or into the workplace. They may have been in work for many, many years, and then something happens and they need a bit of support. So we will then be called upon to go in and give that support. Obviously, we have the expertise in employment and employment law and employment and processes, so we can support them in that. But we've got the additional expertise in learning disabilities, so we can understand how to support them in the right way, so they understand what's happening, so they can engage in the process, but in a supportive way. And signposting. So I have lots of people contact me who may not actually come under my team, wouldn't come under having a learning disability as such, or be able to be supported by my actual team, but we will always signpost to the relevant team or service that could actually support them. So we do a lot of signposting. These are some of the employers we currently work with. These are more the charity organisations, so the voluntary placements, because we do voluntary, we do work initiative. We don't call it experience, we call it initiative, because we have moved away from education. So we look at work initiative programs and obviously paid work. We look at voluntary, and we do voluntary because sometimes that's the foundations for employment. So somebody can go and do voluntary whilst doing our course, and it gives them the foundations for employment. It gives them the routine, it gives them the commitment, it gives them skills. So we use the voluntary sector as well, and these are some of the people we work with within Southend. These are other people that we work with. So we do actually work with quite a lot different charities. However, if they all work differently, and they all have different managers, and so we look at the skills and the needs of the business and the needs of the client to actually match to the manager. So that helps as well, because certain managers teach certain skills. So we look at that as well before placing somebody or introducing somebody into a workplace. We work with local cafes, and there's a lot that do different training programs and training schemes as well that are set up within Southend. And again, they all offer different skill sets. Even though it comes under cafe, there's different ways of working within each establishment. So these are our paid employers, and we have people within all of these companies, and we offer a continual support to them. I have also been contacted on occasions by these companies who have people working with them who have been introduced into the workplace by other means, may have a slight issue or may have problems or may just need reassurance that they are supporting the client in the right way, and they come to us and ask for advice or ask us to go in and just oversee. So I actually take people on that have been in employment a long while. If they need support, we're there to support them. And again, that's how it works with South Essex College. From the internship, I've been working with Sam, and I've actually taken on the support of interns that have actually left the college, are now in paid employment. So our main aim as well isn't just to support people into employment, it's about supporting them to maintain their employment. So we work with Sam and the college in maintaining that as well, which can give some reassurance to companies that do take people who are on internships that there is a continual support system out there if they need that. They probably won't, but if they need that, it's there. So yeah, these are some of the companies that we work with. Some of the positions that we support are business support, food operatives, housekeeping, office domestics, kitchen assistants, chefs, school crossing patrol, supermarket operatives, and we have people in home shopping, so they do really unsociable hours, which is not great when you're job coaching, but part of the job. So we have to be flexible in our working hours. We're flexible in the work that we do as well, because we know that jobs and roles are outside of core hours. So we're prepared to support somebody in the profession they want, in the career they want, and we will go above and beyond on hours to do that. So this is a case study of Patrick. I'd like to say he took that photo himself. It's a selfie. I was very impressed. And Patrick is on the autistic spectrum. His mother contacted the Making It Work team back in 2018. And since leaving college, he had been volunteering at a local charity shop and working at a local cleaning company in their office, answering the door intercom and the phones, but this was without pay. The team worked with Patrick to identify his work preferences, again through a vocational profile, and we introduced him to MenCap and a voluntary position inputting data onto their system. He was a member of the Service User Interview Board when appointing a new Director of Operations for Southend Care, and his questions and his interview skills were very good. He could see and asked questions that perhaps we wouldn't have noticed ourselves or had picked up on ourselves. We worked with Patrick to build his confidence and skill set because he did lack confidence. He had the abilities, he just didn't know it himself. And so that was the main aim for us. Patrick's placement at the local cleaning company came to an end when they refused to pay him for the hours he worked, even though we had the evidence to show he had the capabilities to undertake the role. And obviously, you know, that isn't, you can't do that. You cannot work for a profit-making company on a voluntary basis. Patrick was supported by the Making It Work team with an application for a position with Southend Care on their business support team. He was successful with his application and commenced employment in February 2021. I did approach the employer, I did approach the manager, and I did explain Patrick's skill set, what his strengths were, and where I felt he could fit within the company and within the service. But he did the interview. We supported him, but he still had to do the interview and go through that process. So he continued. Patrick's primary task and responsibilities are inputting all staff COVID LFT and PCR weekly tests onto the system and scanning staff and residents' information onto the service IT system, then destroying all paper copies, ready for the transfer of the 2 care homes into a central building. It's a real responsibility that he's got. He's got to make sure that all of that information is correct, a legal requirement there, and also under data protection. So it was a specific role to him, but a very important role for the company. He answers the intercom system, ensuring all security measures are undertaken before allowing access, and answers the phones in a professional and polite manner, a particular task he felt uncomfortable initially undertaking. Patrick's strengths are his attention to detail and his systematic ways of working. He is reliable, punctual, and a polite, well-presented young man who is working 3 days a week, travelling independently between both residential homes with the potential of increasing those hours once the move anticipated for February 2022 is completed. We supported him in doing the travel training, which was over about 2 or 3 weeks, and that was it. He's now independently doing those journeys. The staff team at the care home are aware Patrick has a learning disability and supported by the Making It Work team, and his work ethic and working practices are seen as an example to others. He is a really well-liked member of staff because he engages with everybody, and his work ethics are really good. So it is positive. It is good for him to be in that workplace. Our referrals come from, I can stop sort of presenting now. I think I've come to the end of that. So our referrals actually come through from the social care team. They come direct from clients, supported living, preparing for adulthood team. Parents and carers contact us direct, DWP, and charity organisations, for example, MenCap. We are on Facebook, we're on Live Well Southend, and we're on Southend Care website. And yeah, we are open. We will say, if you are unsure if somebody could be supported by us, make a referral over and we will do everything we can to give them that support. And if not, we will direct them to where that support can be found. But we try and help as many people as we can. So that's the Making It Work team.
Thank you very much, Sharon. It's absolutely fantastic to hear, and we feel incredibly lucky to have the supported internship service and the Making It Work team here in Southend, supporting young people and residents and also employers. So Sharon, if you just pop your email into the chat box, just so that any employers on the call, if they're interested in working with you and having placements and just working with you to place people into employment, then please pop your email in the chat box. Okay. Next up, we've got Rabia from Disability Rights UK, and we're slightly over on the agenda, so it may be a bit of a whistle-stop tour from you, Rabia. I hate to put you under pressure, but Rabia is going to really finish up our conference here today with a really interesting presentation from the national charity.
Has this uploaded now? Can you see the presentation?
I can see it, and okay. Yeah, perfect.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you for inviting me. We are Disability Rights UK. We are a national charity. The majority of our trustees, staff and volunteers have lived experience of disability or health conditions, and we are a pan-disability organisation. We are disabled people leading change, working for equal participation for all, and that is independent living, career opportunities, and influencing public attitudes. We do policy work as well. We run several projects, including Get Yourself Active, and we also do training. Some of it is free, some of it is for professionals. And if anybody is interested to know about it, please do send me an email and I can tell you how you can sign on. We participate in policy and advisory boards. We have fact sheets and information on our website. We do email and telephone services, and we provide keys to disabled toilets. And we have a fantastic service, although it's called Student Helpline. We also work with apprenticeships and traineeships. Anybody can go and call Rundip, and she will be more than happy to support anybody who has any issues. I just wanted to quickly go over this. Disability is a term that covers a wide range of people with different impairments and health conditions. And this could be somebody who has mobility, hearing or visual loss, has asthma, diabetes or epilepsy, neurodivergent, or have a learning disability or is dyslexic. And under the Equality Act, this is defined as a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial and long-term adverse effect on a person's ability to do normal daily activities. But not everybody identifies as disabled. Could be somebody with long-term health conditions, mental health issues, or certain impairments. And then this could create a little bit of a problem because they could be missing out on the support that they may be eligible for and not ask an employer about it. And removing barriers in the workplace is beneficial for an employer. It makes a workplace inclusive, and removing barriers is both for non-disabled employees and for employees is good business. But if somebody says they are disabled, then an employer has to make a reasonable adjustment. So that a disabled person is not placed at a disadvantage. And I've given the link there for if people want to have more information on that. And a reasonable adjustment depends on individual circumstances, could be a change in practice, policy or procedure, flexible working hours, different ways of communication, providing a quiet working space, a chair adjustment or a desk adjustment, assistive technology, installing ramps or adjusting lighting, creating a designated parking place, or providing additional team support. And as I think Helen said already, it doesn't cost a lot of money. Some of it is inexpensive, but it can have a big impact to keep a talented and highly productive employee. But I'm going to focus a little bit on apprenticeships. It's a real job for training. They're available in a wide range of jobs, and almost any time of apprenticeship can be made accessible, and support is available while you learn and work. And I'm not going to go through this, but the most important thing is that people pay the apprenticeship levy. But extra support for small employers. If you have fewer than 50 people working, you don't pay the 5% or the levy contributions for an apprentice who is aged between 16 to 18 years old or 19 to 24 years old if they have been in care or who has an education, health and care plan. So that's good news if anybody is thinking about that. And there is also a new apprenticeship incentive payment. The government will pay £3,000 for apprentices with an employment start from 1st of October 2021 to January, and applications open in January 22. And this is different to apprenticeship levy funds, so you can spend it on anything to support your organisational cost, for example, on uniforms, your apprentice travel or their salary, and you do not have to pay it back. So that's good news. But on top of that, another extra funding is available to support apprentices who are 16 to 18 or 19 to 24 who have an education, health and care plan. And that is a payment of £1,000 both to the employer and the training provider. And care leavers can get a £1,000 bursary as well. And there is also more support if you are employing somebody who has a self-declared disability or learning difficulty, and they don't have to have a diagnosis, but whom the main provider, the training provider, has assessed as having a learning need. So training providers can get £150 learning support a month. If it exceeds, but is under £19,000 a year, they can get that as well if they apply to the Education and Skills Funding Agency. This is called an earnings adjustment statement. And apprentices who need significant levels of support to start or continue learning can get that through exceptional learning support. The Maynard recommendations: apprentices who have an education, health and care plan or previously had a statement of special educational needs or a learning difficulty assessment can apply for an adjustment to English and maths requirement to entry level 3. And that is a really important part of getting more young people into apprenticeships, because they might be very good at doing the job itself, but they might struggle a little bit with English and maths. And this adjustment is really fantastic that many organizations have campaigned for. And British Sign Language, BSL, can now also be used as an alternative to English functional skills and those who have BSL as their first language. Access to work. Helen has talked about access to work, so I'm not going to go through it, but it does include apprenticeship, traineeship, supported internship, work trials from the job centre. And it can be used for taxi fares from work, a support worker, a BSL interpreter, job coaching, equipment you use to do your job. There is also Remploy has a free service for people who have mental health issues. And if you are an apprentice as well, they have a specific support for that as well. And this is from Luke, who had support from Access to Work. And he said, I can safely say that without the Access to Work grant, I would not be where I am today in my career. It has given me the freedom and ability to be judged solely on my ability to do my job and not because of my disability. So disability, we see this as an asset. It's about changing our mindset. Employing disabled people is good for business because it will bring additional skills to the business, and you'll have a workforce that reflects the diverse range of customers it serves and the community in which it is based. We have some resources. We have an Into Apprenticeship guide, and we have 2 videos as well of young apprentices. We also have a Disabled Apprentice Network. If you know, this is on behalf of the Department for Education. If you know a young person who would like to join, we have a monthly meeting. They can share their experiences, they can give advice, and we will collate all that information and put that together to make apprentices more accessible for young people. Just email me and I can tell you how to join. We also have a resources kit for young people. Get Ahead is a toolkit and resource co-produced with and for disabled young people. The newsletter and magazine helps to navigate the range of information and resources that are available in post-16 education, training and work. And young people can share the talents they have with the photography and stuff like that. So if you know anybody, please let me know. You can get it from our website, Get Ahead at Disability Rights UK. And then we also have the right to participate. It's an introduction to the Equality Act, videos of campaigns, and lots of information. So thank you. Do email me, Rabia Lamaya at Disability Rights UK. So that's my whistle stop.
Thank you so much for joining us, Rabia, and for really highlighting that disabilities are an asset in the workplace and they can bring a huge amount to employers, and for running through all of that information. I don't know how you got through it, but we'll definitely circulate the PowerPoint presentations because there's a huge amount of useful information for local employers. So thank you so much to all of our speakers today. That wraps it up for all of our presentations. This will be recorded if you want to send it to any of your colleagues, but we've got a few questions so far which I'll get kick-started with. Hannah said, will the recording be made available? Yes, it will, and I'll be sending the link by the end of the week. We then have a few questions from Murray. So one directed at Sam. Rabi, if you wouldn't mind just stop sharing your screen, that would be amazing. So we've got Sam, how are some travel to work issues for young people overcome?
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
No worries, I just couldn't multitask, Rabia, reading and it was too much for me. So yeah, Sam, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. So travel issues. So obviously, depending on what the issues are, so potentially the students can get travel trained through the travel trainers through local authorities. Obviously, the job coaches can actually support with travel training. I've done them bus, train, walk into the placement, so we can actually do that as part of the internship alongside that to ensure they can get there safely and securely. If it's around funding, potentially for the cost of the bus and train, then they can speak to the funding team at the college to see whether they're entitled to get any more funding with regards to that. But that's really, I think that's hopefully answered that question, I hope. If not, just shout at me and let me know what.
No, that's fab. Please put in another comment in the chat, Murray, if you have another question. But next up, Murray wanted to ask, looking ahead to career opportunities, how early should this be factored in? Year 6, primary, ? And my personal preference would be the earlier the better. It should be factored in as soon as a young person starts education. But if anyone in the panel wants to chip in there, please feel free. I know Ellen's got her hand up.
To say that preparing for adulthood, the chapter 8 in the Code of Practice is called Preparing for Adulthood from the Earliest Years. And that means that we've got to start having discussions with children and young people all the way through. You know, if we don't ask about what children and young people want to do when they grow up, then the discussion isn't had in the way that it happens with young people without additional needs. We have a Preparing for Adulthood toolkit, which talks about all the different ages and stages and about the things that you can be talking to a young person about from as young as 3 or 4. And then from year 9 at the latest, the Code of Practice says we should be talking about preparing for adulthood and the 4 outcomes, which are around employment, community inclusion, good health and independence. So, you know, Rosie's right. We need to start having those discussions really early so that families can start to think about it too, because there's also the, you know, parents quite often are protective of their child or young person because they have additional needs. And if we can start having those discussions from much earlier, then parents are more prepared to think about how can they be more independent? What is the possibilities? What's positive for that individual? So I would say having the discussions from much earlier, as Rosie has said, and, you know, we talk about in the toolkit that we have, and I didn't put a link to the Preparing for Adulthood website. I'll do it now. And you can have a look at some of the resources that are on there that might help with your thinking.
And sorry, Rosie, just to add on from Ellen's point, she prompted me in the chat around access to work and pay for travel as well, obviously. So depending on the young person, if there's that vulnerable, then we have claimed from taxis to and from the placement because of their disability. So that is something they can do as well alongside that, which we have done previously. But ideally, we try and work with their travel independently with the job coach to and from work placement. But if not, access to work is there to help.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Ellen. You're absolutely right. This is a multi-approach piece of work, working with employers, working with schools and parents. But the employers here today, you're a really important part of that. So thank you. Last question from Murray, what I know so far, we've got Sam mentioned a working interview. Assume support is given to the employer to devise a smart and relevant supported interview. So Sam, is there any work that you do with the employer around the interview?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, yeah, we can support obviously employers with the types of interview. So what I think I'm referring to was that we like to think of it as like a working interview. Like the internship is like a working interview, like long term, because it's for at least 6 months. So it's like a working interview in a sense. But if they had to go through the processes of applying and going through the interview, then we would support the employer with basically how to communicate with the questions they may ask, how to break that down for that young person to understand that. It could to do with just different things, but yeah, the job coach is there to support with any elements, interview application, support in the workplace, the job role, anything that needs to be done, we can have that conversation.
Fab, thank you. Ellen, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just to say, I think George talked about traditional interviews and things earlier, and young people with additional needs quite often don't have anything very much to put on a CV in relation to qualifications. So a working interview allows them to show what they can do before they're employed. And as Sam has said, the approach around a supported internship, just to reassure employers, the supported internship is a college program, a study program, and so don't be nervous that that young person isn't being paid, because a lot of the time employers were very nervous about not paying an individual. Doesn't mean to say they can't pay them, because it doesn't affect the college funding, but if they want to have a young person in the workplace, they can work there for, you know, the full term, the full academic year, and at the end of that the expectation is that if they're doing the job well, they'll get the job, but just not to be nervous because it's a college course they're on, and it's not exploitation.
Great, thank you. So we've got 2 more questions, but I think Rabia's got her hand up. Did you have something to add on that point?
Yeah, I also wanted to say, to highlight the Kickstart program. This is a fantastic opportunity for young people. We've just employed 2 young Kickstarters, you know, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's a win-win situation, and you can still do it. It has been extended until the end of the year. So the Kickstart is where you employ somebody for 25 hours a week. And they on the minimum wage, and it's the Department for Work and Pensions who pays for it. So as an employer, it's a win-win situation, and for the young people, it is an opportunity to do an actual job, be in work. And as Helen was saying, they often haven't got a lot to put on their CV, but they can absolutely put that on their CV that they've done 6 months work, a proper job. So go for it.
Rabia, is they have to be on universal credit to get on the Kickstart in the first place.
Yes, yes, you know, you're absolutely right. They have to be on universal credit, and it has to go through the Department of Work and Pensions. Absolutely, yes. And it is 16 to 24, 25, yeah.
Thank you, Rabia. We're really enthusiastic about Kickstarting the team as well, because we've got some fantastic Kickstarters, so thank you. Okay, so I'll whistle stop through the final 2 questions before wrapping up the event. We've got Elaine from Connections asks, regarding internships, is there a shortage of employers in a particular sector, or are students happy to try different sectors? So I suppose that's directed at you, Sam. Is there sectors you're in need for?
So obviously every year is different, because obviously every young person has interest in different businesses, but obviously hospitality is such a big one, which I think we're okay there. I mean, because of obviously the vocational pathways that we have at the college, a lot of them sometimes come from construction, sort of that sort of motor vehicle, that sort of side of things, which that is tricky to get into, to be fair. We've tried to speak to employers, but sometimes it's quite difficult to get through or find the employers that are willing to take on a young person. Sometimes it's on site, so obviously they have to go through a CSCS card, which is something we can support with potentially down the line, but it's just finding that right employer. Animals as well is obviously a young person's quite, as I would do the same, to be fair. I love animals, so it's always very good interest, but we've got to look realistically at paid employment at the end of it, and sometimes animal business can be quite one-man bands or a couple of people, so there's not opportunities there a lot of the time. Some big businesses don't necessarily want to come on board sometimes and can only offer a certain amount of work experience. But apart from that, it depends really. I mean, I think we've got quite a broad, we've worked with obviously like media and design before, we had a social media role and stuff like that. But yeah, depending on the learners really. But yeah, they are willing to try different things. They come to us sometimes thinking, oh, they want to do this. We speak to them, go for the vocational profile, start to dig deep exactly what they like, and sometimes that can change, and then they are willing to give it a go because they just want to work. They just need that opportunity, more so if anything.
Fab, thank you, Sam. And you've got Stuart Moody from the airport saying, can we arrange a Teams meeting in the coming weeks, please? So hopefully you've got a new employer on board. Final, I was just, if I ask some of the panel, if you can help Paul, he's asked, he is based in Chelmsford. Is there anything like this that supports him in other areas of Essex, such as Basildon, Clacton or Harlow? Just because of time, I'm going to ask you guys to pop it in the chat for Paul, if that's okay. But I just wanted to finish up by saying we've got a comment from Margaret who has said, this has been really interesting, emotive and punchy. Thank you so much. as Ellen said, paid employment opens the door to independence, community inclusion and good health for young people, which I think is really the key point here as well to share. So a massive thank you to all of our speakers who have joined us today and for all of our attendees. I hope you have taken something away from this morning. I certainly have. It's been great to hear about the sheer number of roles that people with additional needs are not only undertaking in our local employers, but they're really excelling within as well. I'd just like to finish up the session by saying we've got a number of call to actions. This isn't just a listen and information session. We'd really love to contact you after this session to see if you could get involved in supported internships like Mark from Thurrock and George from Caddies, get involved in offering work experience opportunities like London Southend Airport, or perhaps working with the Making It Work team to provide employment opportunities. So I'll be in contact after this event. If you need anything, please pop it into the chat now and we can pick it up following the event. But just a massive thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks very much.